why are we at the teacher's table? Well, the reason why is because a lot happened last week with when we talked about Jesus being crucified on the cross and then when he was resurrected. See, for a while there, I mean, it was just horrible. And what we had learned about Jesus, I mean, it was just so sad. But then at the end of the week, when we talked about his resurrection, I mean, that's so exciting. So it's sad but exciting at the same time because we know what Jesus did for us. So that's what's going on right now. All right. So Jesus has risen from the dead. He showed himself to Mary. He showed himself to Mary, and he's told everybody's kind of seen that the tomb was empty. So Peter and John, they had gone inside and they saw that it was empty. The ladies had come, they saw that it was empty. Now they don't know if they necessarily went inside, but they peeked in, and then the angel came and told them that he wasn't there anymore. So now word is starting to spread through the city. All right. So Passover has finished and people are starting to go back home. Now remember, everybody comes to the city for Passover time. They stay there for about a week long. That's how long it was. And they would do all kinds of different activities and things. And then when they were finished, then everybody would go back home. So if you lived close by, then you had less time to travel. And if you lived farther away, you had a lot farther to travel. So you had all these people come into town. They see Jesus. They see him put to death. They see him placed on the cross. There's sadness. There's great sadness. And now they're all going back home. And there's this sadness. But something else is happening. You see, the Bible talks about this one particular group, probably husband and wife, that start heading home. Now, they lived just a few miles outside of Jerusalem, so they didn't have very far to go, but they start walking home. They finished their activities in Jerusalem. They know the Passover was over, and they're just walking home, and they have a look about their face that's just they're not happy. And then the stranger comes up to them and begins to walk with them and says, "Why are you all so sad? What's going on?" And they're like, "Well, where have you been?" Everybody knows what's been going on in Jerusalem this past week. They talk about how Jesus was taken and the Son of God was taken and he was put up on the cross and they handed him over and they had him arrested and then they made him crucify him and he was put on the cross and he died and they buried him and it was just terrible. Where have you been, mister, that you didn't know all of this? And so they're having this wonderful time. And the man that was with them, the stranger, was like, "Well, they said it would happen. Why don't they understand? Why aren't they paying attention?" Because that's what all the promises had been saying. So the stranger begins talking to the people that are going home about how all the promises that were in the scripture, about how all of these things would happen, and that the Son of Man would have to come, Son of Man being God, being Jesus, would have to come and suffer a great many things, but then 3 days later that he would rise again. Because yeah, that's what the couples were saying. Like, yeah, that some people are talking about how he's risen from the dead. Mary's going around telling people that she saw Jesus, and Peter and John are saying that he wasn't there in the tomb anymore. So there's just what's going on. So the stranger begins telling this couple all about what the promises were, basically begins preaching to them. And they're just listening to everything he has to say because, wow, it's really good. And they're really enjoying all of this. And they're learning so much from this stranger that they've just met on the way home. And so then they get to the point where they get really, really close to their house. And they're like, "Okay, well, this is where we turn to go to our house. Well, since we're here, why don't you come with us?" And so they invite the stranger in. Now, we don't go around inviting a whole bunch of strangers into our house nowadays, but back in Bible times, they did that all the time. They said, "Why don't you just come home with us? And then we can continue having this wonderful conversation that we're doing." So that's exactly what happens. They come and they sit down at the table, just like you're sitting at the table with me. I'm sure that she went in and fixed something to eat. And they sat down and still considering and they're talking about what's going on and they're listening to what he has to say. And so then she put some bread on the table and Jesus took the bread. Now, sorry, can I just give something away? Did you already figure it out that that was probably him? They still see him as a stranger. They don't know who it is. They don't recognize it. How, don't ask me how that. I don't know whether he disguised himself or what, or whether he just simply didn't help them to understand. I know there's a leaf right there. There's a flower. was right there. But yeah, so he sits down. So he picks up the bread. The stranger picks up the bread and he breaks it. Okay. And as soon as he breaks the bread, now this does not look like our loaf of bread. I know it looks like flat bread. It almost reminds me of like a tortilla or something, or like a pancake. So yeah, they did have some shorter bread, some flatter bread. So he picks it up and he breaks it. As soon as he breaks it, the Bible says that their eyes were open. Now that does not mean that they went around with their eyes closed. It simply means that they finally understood. You see, all this time they did not know who they were with. I'm guessing that means that he must have disguised himself or some way, or simply just made them so that they didn't understand who he was with. But then all of a sudden they're like, oh, that is Jesus at our table. He's been with us the whole time. And before they could even start talking and saying anything to him, he's gone just like that. I mean, he literally just left. 1 second he was there with them at the table, like you're at the table with me, and the next second, boom, he was gone. And he wasn't there anymore. Amazing. And for a second or two, they just kind of sat there and stared at each other. Can you believe what we just have? And then, of course, they can't just sit there. They are so excited. They get up from the table, they leave their food there. They get up from the table and they run out the door and they run down the street and they run back to the city as fast as they could go. And they go in and they start screaming and shouting as they get closer to the house where the disciples were staying. And of course, they come out. What is wrong? What's going on with you people? They have still been in the house keeping quiet. You see, they're not sure what's going on. Everybody's just kind of staying really quiet about Jesus. Nobody's really saying anything. They're still kind of feeling sad and then feeling confused at the same time, because if he's not there buried, where is he? And so they're just kind of waiting and they don't know what's going to happen then either. What if the soldiers start knocking on their door? So they really haven't really gone anywhere. But here these guys come up running back up. These guys have got something to say. What? What are you talking about? What are you hollering about? It's true. We've seen him. Now, they're the only ones that have seen Jesus besides Mary. He hasn't shown himself to anybody else yet. The disciples, they're still waiting to hear. Can you believe it? We saw him. And the disciples are probably thinking, oh, why is he showing himself to us? I mean, that's wonderful for you, but when do we get to see him? And it wasn't until a little bit later that Jesus actually was it. Well, hello. Hello, everyone. There's Bob. Excuse us. Pardon us. We need to finish our lesson. If you could wait down there for us, please. Thank you so much. Can you believe that? At that moment. Okay, so this is what happens. So the disciples are in the room and kind of enjoying what's going on. Yeah, no, what everybody else is going. Is that okay? If you bite me in front of everyone, that would not be very nice at all. Okay. You can come up and enjoy time with us. Okay. So this is what's going on. No, you have to wait here. You can go over here if you want to. I knew this would happen. He does this whenever anything's on the table. Okay, let's get his tushy out of the way. So anyway, so as we were saying, so here is Jesus. I know it's a crazy place around here. So here is the disciples in the room, and then all of a sudden, Jesus is there with them. They've been quiet in this house, but now Jesus is in there with them. And this is so exciting. And at first they're kind of like, and just kind of wondering, what's really going on here? Are we seeing what we're supposed to be seeing? Are we seeing what we're supposed to be seeing? Is this truly Jesus? I mean, and they're kind of looking at each other, looking at Jesus, and he understands, he knows their thoughts. And so he knows that they're having some questions. So he wants to show them that he truly is there. It's not their imagination. They're not imagining it. He's truly there in front of them. And so he simply says, do you have something to eat? Obviously, they're not dreaming it. He's there. And he actually ate something so that he could prove to them that he was there. And then they're like, oh my goodness, it's so exciting to see you. And so they have this wonderful conversation. And so Jesus has time with them. And then, just like he came in, boom, there he went out. And he was gone. Somebody was missing. Somebody wasn't there at the time. One of the disciples that was part of Jesus' group, his name was Thomas. And Thomas was off doing something else at that particular time that Jesus came in. So when he got back and joined the group, they're all like, you're not going to believe it. Yes, Jesus was here. And of course, no. No, he didn't believe it. He actually didn't believe it. He didn't believe that they had seen Jesus. He says, no, not unless I see him with my own eyes. I cannot believe you. I cannot listen to you unless I see it with my own eyes. They're like, but he was here. It was another 8 days before they were all in there again together. And again, he shows himself out. They're all in there. And then next thing you know, poof, there he was. And then Jesus was in there. He didn't come through the door. He didn't jump through the window. He didn't fall from the ceiling. He just appeared in the room because he has risen from the dead. So he can do that. And so, oh, it was so exciting. So that's exactly what happens. So he comes in, and now Thomas is in there. Sometimes he was referred to as doubting Thomas because he didn't believe at first. So now he's like, oh, with my own eyes, I can see. And Jesus says, yes, go ahead, touch my hands, touch my side, where they poked me with the sword. Do you remember that? Where the soldiers poked him with the sword? Go ahead and touch my side. Thomas says, no, I don't have to. Since I have seen you with my eyes, I don't have to touch you. I can believe. And Jesus then kind of comes back and says to him, well, I'm glad that you've seen me. Blessed are those that don't have to see and still believe. That's you and me. You see, we don't have to see Jesus to believe in him. We just know that it's true because we can believe. That's having faith. That's believing in something, not seeing it with my own eyes, but believing it with every part of me because I know that it's true because it's in the Bible. Well, then he was gone. And so again, but now he's told them something that he has something to tell them, but he's not going to tell them there. He's going to tell them somewhere else. And so they're going to take a trip. So until we take a trip, I'm just going to leave you hanging. I hope you enjoyed meeting Bob. Now everybody knows who Bob is, and I think Bob wants to be fed. See you later.